as they say. And we are going to go to our next guest. They are going to join us live here on our big broadcast. And I think we've got Tony.
Walker Financial, this is Shanna.
Hello. I think I may have dialed the wrong number. I apologize. Okay, we called a financial place. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. So, I think we called the wrong number. I think we called some whoosy what's it. Some whoosy what's it, as they say. I don't know whoosy, and I don't know what's it. As the great Rush Limbaugh would say, I don't know where a whoosy what's it works. I don't know what a whoosy what's it does. And I don't know where a whoosy what's it works. I don't know what they think about, and I don't know. I don't know about it. Well, as Burka would say. That's what Burka would say. A great Ellen Burka. Okay, well, I don't know what to say, so I will not say anything at all. But that doesn't make for good radio. Get a hold of us online at JIGGYJAGUAR.com. Go to the all-new, updated JiggyJaguar.com. That is the best spot to see what we are up to. And I'll tell you, we have got all sorts of things going on over there at the Big Broadcasters website. I'm very proud of the all-new JiggyJaguar.com. I know there's a lot of PR companies and a lot of people who run their mouths about us, and they say that we don't have a good website, when in fact we do. So go over and see what it is all about over there at JiggyJaguar.com. Okay, let's see if I can get in here. See if I can figure out. I think I had the right number. But I need to get a hold of Tony.
Tony Walker's office.
Hello, this is James Lowe calling Tony for his radio interview.
Oh, perfect. Just a moment.
No problem. I think we had the right number to begin with. Tony Walker Financial.
Hello, this is Tony.
And I think we've got Tony with us. Tony, welcome to the broadcast. How are you, my friend? It is James Lowe calling you for your radio interview. How are you, sir?
Oh, very good, Mr. Lowe. Doing well.
So let's talk about this brand new book, The Adventures of Tony Balony and Cookie, which, by the way, is an amazing, amazing title. Go to TonyBaloneyandCookie.com. Yes, that's a real website, and yes, it is fantastic. And the author joins us today here on our big broadcast. So tell us a bit about this book.
Well, James, it all started approximately a year ago. I've got two young grandchildren, Scout and Ivy. They're now ages 4 and 3. And, of course, I love telling stories. Even in my business world, I like to tell stories. So we just kind of, at bedtime, I'd read them a book, and then I started making up stories about my childhood. Some of it was true. Some of it was just make-believe. And the more I told about my childhood, and I really did have a dog named Cookie and my brother Marty and mom and dad, just, made up stuff. I noticed they really were thinking about it, enthralled about it, wanted to hear more. So I told them, I said, well, what we need to do is write a book. So I've written several other books on finance, but I use them as my focus group, and I would come up with titles of the stories, and what do you think about this, whether it was Tony Baloney Learns to Swim or whatever. I'd make up the stories, try to make them rhyme, and then we kind of collectively, I wrote about 15 short stories, read them to them, and they helped pick them out, and then I got with an illustrator and another person that helps lay out the children's book, and kind of the rest is history. So, but it was a fun project, and quite frankly, actually more rewarding than the other books I've ever written, just to write a book that your grandkids helped write, and then to give them a copy of that book and read it to them. It was pretty special.
That's awesome. So this this cover is amazing. Tell me a little bit about the cover of the book.
Well, years ago, I wrote another book called Don't Follow the Herd, again, a financial book, and a gentleman by the name of Chuck Jones, who I just met through happenstance, I gave him a vision of what I wanted on that book would be cows falling off a cliff, following each other. And, I mean, the guy just nailed it. He's a very good illustrator. So I told Chuck, I said, I want to write a book about me and my dog Cookie, and I sent him some pictures of my childhood. And again, he's just very good at that. If you saw the actual pictures of me and Cookie, very close resemblance. He kind of doctored it up a little bit. And what was funny, he sent it back to me, and it was ready to go. And Ivy, my youngest, said, you don't have your glasses on. I wear glasses. And I said, well, I didn't wear glasses back then. And she said, we need glasses. So I called Chuck, and I said, Chuck, we need glasses on Tony Balony. So he put the glasses on, and in a way I thought that was kind of cool. You know, it maybe younger kids that have to deal with glasses and feel funny about it. You know, they can see Tony Balony had glasses too. So it's also a feel-good book for kids to encourage them and to just have some fun and read some funny stories. So, but Chuck Jones gets all the credit for the illustrations in all the books, all the book.
It is Tony Balony, The Adventures of Tony Balony and Cookie. The author joins us today here on our big broadcast. So tell us a little bit about your particular writing style, my friend.
Well, yeah, I've got a different writing style. I've loved writing. I've written for years. I even produce a television show here in Kentucky that's on weekly. It's called The Worry-Free Retirement. In fact, we have our own studio here and just recorded a show this morning, so I do all the writing for it. So, yeah, I mean, I've never been a trained writer. I wouldn't say I'm a great writer. I write the way I talk, and that's kind of my style. I try to use very simple terms. In my world of finance, I work with a lot of people that, you know, are what I call the saver personality, and over the years, I've just had to learn to talk in a way that they can understand, you know, what we're trying to do with their money and how to help them, and that just translates to my audience. So my thoughts are, if I'm talking to 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, I need to talk in a way that communicates with them, you know, and there needs to be some silliness, and there needs to be some things that normally you and I both know as adults would never happen, like Tony Balony climbing over a fence to see the elephants or whatever, you know, but they like it.
I don't know. I might climb over some fences to see some elephants, brother.
Oh, I probably would too, given the opportunity. But but no, and actually as a child I was pretty mischievous. I mean, I didn't quite pull that off. And then the for instance, the accident with Cookie getting under my bike, that actually happened. That resulted in 6 stitches, and the raking leaves, that really happened, where we helped my father, Papa Dick, with chores. So there are a lot of true stories kind of weaved in there, but that's my writing style. I kind of write the way I talk and how I think is the best way to communicate to people.
We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast talking about the incredible book, The Adventures of Tony Balony and Cookie. So tell me a little bit about your writing process and bringing this book to life.
Yeah, so what I would do every time I made up a story, as I told it to Scout and Ivy, and especially Scout. Scout is a year older, but really you can tell is inquisitive. Her mind was really working, and she would say, tell me more. She'd always say, tell me more, or tell me another one. Well, then I'd known I'd kind of hit a high note there, so I would kind of already have a mental note of what that was. I would go back into my laptop when I had time and try to recreate the story I told. Then I'd go back and polish it up, make sure there was a little rhythm to it and some rhymes, and that would be it. I'd save that in my Word document, and then sometimes, and I'm a weird sleeper. I wake up a lot in the middle of the night. If I've got something on my mind, a lot of times I'll just write it down or type it into my laptop, and that's the way a lot of these stories evolved, you know. And there's even more than that I could come out with a second edition. So what I did was I had probably about 15, as I said, and I had them help me pick out, you know, the 9 to 11 top stories. We didn't want the book to be too long. We wanted it to be a book where you could sit down with a child. The stories are very short, but I've found that most of the people that have purchased it so far and read it to their youngsters have said that they all sat through the whole thing in one sitting. And it doesn't take long to go through it. Even if you read it slow, you can be done in 15 minutes, and there's a table of contents. So if the kid really wants to learn about Tony Balony going to the circus, you know, you can find it at the front and turn to that one real quick. And at the very end, there's a fun exercise that one of the illustrators came up with, and the kids love that. At the very end, you try to find Cookie, the dog, who's embedded throughout the book, little pictures of Cookie. And I found that, like everybody loves dogs. So my gut feeling is this little character Cookie, this actual dog I had, may be the one that steals the show. So it's just been a fun venture. I can't tell you how much fun I've had with this.
We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live. The Adventures of Tony, Balony, and Cookie. We've got the author with us today. Joins us live here on our big broadcast. So what do you want readers to take away from your writing of this great book?
Well, I'm kind of one, and I'm 62 years of age now, and if you hung around me, even around kids, I just like to have fun. I think here's what I boil this down to, and one reason I wrote this book, and in fact, my next step, I'm working with animators trying to make a cartoon of it.
That's
awesome. I think it's just very uplifting. Yeah, that's my next step. I've already ventured down that road, but I think, quite frankly, James, I just think people are taking things way too seriously nowadays, and I look back when I grew up in the 60s as a kid and 70s. I mean, things were serious, but things were nearly not that serious. Kids didn't have all of the video games and all this, and I think in some ways they're not really allowed to use their imagination. So I think if they can identify with Tony, Balony, and Cookie, the innocence of the time back then, the things we did, hopefully they can, too, kind of spur their imagination on to just have some good, clean fun and maybe even come up with stories of their own or things they would like to talk about or use their imagination. So that's what I think the fun of it is. I enjoy, messing with little kids. I love the way their imagination can run wild. And, you're not really inhibited by, well, that's a silly story or that would never happen. And to me, it's just all about having fun with these youngsters. And that's really what the book is for.
Well, the book is amazing. What is next for you as an author?
Well, as I said, this is my 6th book I've written, but the first 5 were financial. I kind of like this kid's journey. I mean, I've been doing the financial world a long time, and it's not that I won't write another book at some point, but I really want to see if I can flesh out the character of Tony, Balony, and Cookie. And like I said, with some animation, maybe a part 2, maybe down the road. The books about Tony and Balony and Cookie are more of a story about one subject, not a long book, a very short form book, but maybe take it a little more in depth about some of their adventures, But when I think about books I still read to them, one of my favorite books as a kid was Artie the Smarty. That was an old book, real popular. It was the same thing.
Yes.
Do you like Artie the Smarty?
I'll tell you, it's fantastic. I'm amazed that you brought that up. I think it's great.
It's still my favorite book, and I still read it to them. I mean, but I'm kind of an Artie the Smarty. I wrote a book called Don't Follow the Herd, and that book was based off of Who Moved My Cheese / Artie the Smarty, and the idea there was don't always follow the herd. If you're wondering why the water tastes funny as you're drinking downstream from the rest of the herd, there's probably a reason why. So, that kind of thing.
That's awesome too.
So I like those kind of books that kind of challenge the imagination, get people to think differently, ask the question, why not? Why can't we do this or that or whatever? So I don't know. I'm really excited about the animation. It's going to be about 6 months before this gets done, but I'm curious to see how this looks in, for lack of a better word, cartoon form. And then, see if we can continue to build the brand out, for lack of a better word, of Tony, Balony, and Cookie. That's the goal.
It's fantastic. So this book, you've put a lot of time and effort into the book. Talk to us about the character development with this book.
Yeah, the character development in terms of me, Tony, Balony, that was easy. I really a lot of that stuff really happened in a different way, possibly in some ways, but it really did happen in childhood. I really did have a mom that now my grandkids call Ma Jo. I didn't call her Ma Jo, but that's what they know her as. And then my father, who's been deceased for years, my kids called him Papa Dick. So although in real life I just called them Mom and Dad, I thought kind of give them names, Ma Jo and Papa Dick. My brother Marty, he's still alive and well. He was my only brother, and we were real close and still are to this day. So the swimming at the hotel, if you look closely, it says Inn in the back. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. Back then we didn't have a lot of money. We were lower middle class. My dad knew the judge executive there in Lexington who happened to own a small little hotel with a pool. Well, that's where we'd go crash the pool. We'd go swim there. That was the actual pool we swam at. So it really is just things that happened in my childhood. They're, for the most part, real life instances, settings, and just kind of just tell the story of what we were doing with a little bit added splash here and there, dashed in there. That's about it.
We have got a great guest with us today, the author of The Adventures of Tony, Balony, and Cookie. Before we let you go, my friend, how do we get in touch with you online and get the book?
Yeah, well, of course, the book is in major booksellers, and it's a print on demand, so you can order it pretty quick either through Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Joseph Beth, I've noticed they're listed there. So you'll get that book pretty quickly once it's ordered. We have a website at TonyBaloneyandCookie.com if you want to go visit that. It's just kind of a fun little site. But, yeah, I would just ask as a huge favor to your listeners, I assure you, if you get this book, you're going to enjoy it. It's really not about the money at this point for me. You know, it really is. I just would like to see this thing really get out there and share it with a lot of young kids. And obviously, if you get it and read it to your young ones, and if you really like it and they like it, would appreciate a review online and see if we can get the message out and the warm and fuzzies that Tony Baloney and Cookie will provide you.
Fantastic. Well, you are amazing. Thanks for making some time for us today. I look forward to chatting with you more down the road, and just thanks for writing a great book here, my friend.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me on, James.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. There he goes, the author of The Adventures of Tony, Baloney, and Cookie, Tony Walker, with us today. That wraps it up here for this segment. We'll be back with more.